Hi everybody, this is Angela from Get Women Cycling. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about tire punctures, what causes them and how we can prevent them. But before we do that, the first thing that we want to do is actually identify what has caused the puncture, or where is it in our tube, so that we can learn more about it. So the first thing you want to do is, after you remove that inner tube, is inflate it largely, full as much as you can. Probably to like this width here. And then you want to be able to identify where the puncture is. So you can do that in two ways. You can hold it close to your ear and move the tube around, and then you'll hear the air as it escapes. Or you can use your hand as you go around and feel for the air to escape. Once you identified where the air is escaping, go ahead and take a closer look and see what kind of damage has been done. It can either be a puncture, a single puncture, it can be a snake bite, or it can be a tear. So let's assume that in this case we have a puncture and it appears on the top or the outer side of this inner tube. We know it's the top because if we hold the valve down, that reveals the top of that tube. If it's on the top, most likely the puncture has been caused by either glass, a metal shard, while you're riding your bicycle. What you want to do there, of course, is then inspect your outer tire and remove that glass or metal object, and then you should be good to go. If that puncture is on the inside of the tube, that's caused because there's an issue with the rim. So once you remove your tire, you'll be able to see what the story is with inside that rim. It can either be that this rim tape has shifted and that the spoke nipple is showing up, and then that's disrupting that inner tube to cause it to have air release. Or it could be that there's some sharp metal burr that's coming out in the rim. So you want to make sure that you go around the whole tire and inspect that inside of the rim if you feel like the puncture was found inside the tube. The next is the snake bite, and the snake bite is usually caused because your tire is underinflated. There's not a lot of air pressure in there, and as you're riding, this inner tube actually gets caught between the rim and the tire wall, causing that snake bite. The other cause of the snake bite is that once you are installing a new tube into the tire, it's not installed properly, and so again, this inner tube gets pinched, and that is the reason why you have your snake bite. The next type of puncture is a blowout or a tear. And I don't know if you experience this when you're going to bike shops and the service department is pumping up air. Sometimes you hear this loud sound, and that's because the inner tube was overinflated. It didn't have the elasticity to keep that air pressure, and it just pops, resulting in a large tear. So of course, to avoid that is to make sure that you know what your air pressure maximum is as well as your air pressure minimum. Another reason for this tear or blowout is, again, an improper installation of the tube when you are putting in a new inner tube into your wheel set. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure that you're looking after you have placed the inner tube in there on both sides of that rim, so that that inner tube isn't showing as you're pumping up the air. And the final cause of flats that we're going to talk about today is the valve puncture. That occurs, and this is actually quite common. Again, it occurs because there's an underinflation of air. So what happens is as you're riding your bicycle and you're braking, the inner tube actually shifts. And when that shifts, the valve sits in an angle in the valve hole. After a while, it starts to rub, causes irritation, and the air will leak from there. So it's pretty simple. The first thing that you want to do, again, to recap, is fill the inflated tire. See what's causing that air leakage, whether it is a single puncture, a snake bite, a tear, or if it's coming from the valve. If it's a single puncture, is it coming from the outside of the tire or from the inside? If it's from the outside, check the tire, make sure there's no glass or metal shards. If it's from the inside, make sure that the rim tape is in place, and also that there's no metal burrs that are coming up from the rim. For the snake bite, the reason why that happens is it's underinflated. So know your tire pressure. If you have too little tire, this inner tube gets pinched and it causes that snake bite effect, air releases. At the same time, when you are installing a new tube, you want to make sure that that new tube is sitting properly inside the tire and it's not poking out on the sides here, which will then pinch this tube and cause leakage. It could also cause that blowout effect that we were talking about before. Also, overinflating a tire beyond the maximum limit will cause that blowout effect. Huge sound, and you'll get a tear in the tire. And then finally, what we talked about is that valve puncture. The valve puncture is from underinflation, which makes the tube shift, and then the valve gets caught in an angle, and that valve hole causes irritation in the rubber, and air will release. So what are the takeaways? Know your air pressure. Air pressure on the tire is always marked, and there's limits. There's maximums and there's minimums. Just check the side wall of your tire to know what the air pressure is. Also, make sure that your tire is in good condition. So if it's thin or flimsy, think about replacing it. If it's dry, if you see dry rot, think about replacing it. Look at the beads and see if the beads are separating from the rest of the tire. Think about replacing it. And then the third thing that you want to do to prevent flats is learn how to properly install an inner tube, because a lot of these flats occur because the inner tube was not installed properly. So I hope this helps. Bike month is just around the corner. Thank you for tuning in. If you find this useful, please share this information, like us, send us comments and questions. We look forward to hearing from you. Again, I'm Angela from Get Women Cycling. We're out front in Sun House Cafe in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. And we do this because we believe bike riding can make people happy. Thank you. Bye.